Hello, Andy and classmates. So thank you for your response, Andy. I realized that I probably need to describe a little bit better what I was perceiving as the way to take advantage of this root cause analysis that I did. So in order to do that, I tried to put together a good example on how I think this could be beneficial. So let me first start off by saying that uh, when I think about this, I think about like a consumer food product as being sort of like the start of something, and then I could see it spreading into like other industries. So when I say like labeling the carbon impact on something, I mean basically like here you have the product label, and then on the back you also have the label with all of the food, like the sugar and everything else. So what I'm saying is kind of like with a pack of cigarettes or whatever, you have a label on it that says, these are the impacts of whatever so and so consumption. So here you have the weight. It has to have the weight of the food. So it could be kind of like right here where you say like what is the carbon impact of this product. So then people can make some decisions, and not everybody is going to make their purchasing decisions based off of a carbon impact, but some customers will. And if you have two products that are very similar, but one has a magnified carbon impact than the other, then that does result in being a decision criteria, at least for some customers. And if that can propagate a shift in market share for any specific product, then there is a incentive for the manufacturer to keep an eye on that. So now let's take the other thing where I put it. I discussed the importance of the manufacturer of these products needs to track all of these carbon impacts so that they'll be able to put that label. So that is actually just as important, if not more important, than the customers who are now going to be informed. And there's a number of reasons why. If you want to decarbonize at a rate of 5%, that's an extremely aggressive value. And if a continuous improvement professional is going to achieve that rate of decarbonization, they are going to need a lot of data, and they're going to be able to find out where can I go after this. So if you're looking at their whole supply chain and how they make a product, if you look at the ingredients that goes into this hummus, if they are going to decarbonize the manufacture of this hummus, then they need to be able to look at all of the inputs that go into that hummus and choose inputs that are less carbon impact but still cost effective, so they can remain both cost competitive and carbon cost competitive. So they can now manage both of these things. So the way that I propose that this could potentially be assessed and is to basically look at the energy cost of all of the inputs, and all of the inputs will be sent to, let's say this is President's Choice Hummus. Okay, so some of the ingredients in that is chickpeas. This is roasted red pepper hummus, so you have red pepper. Maybe you have different spices. Here I have cayenne pepper. You have garlic. You have olive oil. And you have salt and pepper. Okay, so these are some of your ingredients. All of those ingredients will be purchased by the person who's going to combine all those ingredients, and when they receive them, they will be also receiving with them, basically the paperwork, the understanding that, this red pepper per unit weight has this amount of carbon cost, and that's been calculated, and it's basically just a multiplicative factor times whatever their energy use is to harvest all their red peppers. So if this weighs 200 grams, then it has X amount of energy cost and X amount of carbon that is associated with that energy. So if all of the inputs the chickpeas. Okay, so this is 796 milliliters of chickpeas, 28 fluid ounces. So that's associated also with a specific carbon cost. So I take all of my ingredients, I blend all of their energy together, and so that's the concept of embodied energy. And then in so doing, I'm also blending together all of their embodied carbon and the carbon that is released as a result of their manufacture. So if each one of these 6 ingredients here is, let's say, 100 grams of carbon, then it's 600 grams of carbon, okay, and then we blend it in our blender, my magic bullet, okay, and the process of blending is associated with a power and a power usage, electrical consumption, and then that is also associated with a specific carbon impact. So you could reduce some of your carbon impact just by powering your blender with solar panels instead of powering your blender with fossil fuels off the grid, or if you have hydro, etc. So then you're looking at the power sources as one of the ways that you can drive your carbon impact down. So in conclusion, that there was 2 things that we had here. There's the opportunity for continuous improvement professionals such as myself, and there's a lot of people out there like me that are looking at reducing the let's say the supply chain implications of consumption. So if you can drop the carbon cost of the chickpeas down by getting them from a different manufacturer who can give you the same amount of chickpeas for the same price but 10% lower carbon, then you just dropped your carbon cost, and now you get to put a lower carbon thing here on your hummus, and you now have a competitive advantage in the marketplace because your hummus is going to be lower carbon cost. And if you then increase your market share, then the results of consuming hummus for any consumer, your carbon impacts will be lower because now the entire industry is moving away from carbon intensity and moving into the situation where now the carbon cost of manufacturing is now a factor to be assessed and reduced for marketing efforts. And those who choose not to reduce those efforts will lose market share. So if 60% of the hummus is, can't just break down. If 60% of hummus is this brand and then 40% is another brand, and they shift as a result of that, maybe they go to 50-50, just a relatively small shift or something in the market share, then that has actually decarbonized by a very significant amount. And you'll be able to continue down that trend and get benchmarks going throughout the community on how to actually decarbonize an industry. Then there is actually one other last benefit that's good along with this, which is if you do want to create a carbon tax or a carbon cap and trade or something like that in the future, having the label right here is a continual thing that is ever present in people's faces and gets them thinking about the cost of carbon. And if you're continually confronted with the cost of carbon, when somebody goes to pass a carbon tax, you're going to be a lot less abhorrent to that. And you're not going to necessarily vote against that because you've been kind of confronted with the fact that there is a cost with carbon, and it's more integrated into the culture and the understanding of people that this is something that I actually do need to consider. And I will mention that I don't recommend putting this has a kilogram worth of carbon, blah, blah, blah. What I would recommend doing would be to speak the language of the people. The people who buy this hummus are not going to understand what a kilogram of carbon does to the atmosphere. So that's when we just go to the peer-reviewed literature and try and say, okay, well, we've said that we can only have, it's like a giant giga whatever ton worth of carbon, or else we will have 2 degrees of warming. We'll pass that. So what are the costs of passing that? And you basically say, what does a gram of carbon cost me? Is it a penny? Is it 2 pennies? How much is that? And then if this is a kilogram of carbon and, whatever, if it amounts to 15 cents, then I should put the cost of carbon to make this product, is 15 cents. And obviously that would have to be done more technically than I just did, but in a way that is best and most appropriate. So that is my description, my response to Andy's question. I hope that it was good, and I look forward to more questions as we evolve this discussion. Thank you. Bye. Okay, off.